What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Nasty Podcast. It's your boy Nasty coming at you with another episode. Today, we celebrate the end of an era, and that's because Attack on Titan chapter 139 is here, and the manga has finally reached its conclusion. Because this is such a monumental episode, I have the honor of being joined by a very special guest. She's very influential in the fandom, and I'm a huge fan of her work. So I want to welcome Momtaku to the podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Nasty. I'm so excited.
Likewise, I'm very excited. Thank you so much for coming on. Like I told you before we started recording, I've been watching your podcast. I've been following your posts, and you do such a great job of dissecting the manga and the anime now that season 4 has come out.
I appreciate it. I'm a fan of your work as well, so this is perfect.
Thank you. So I'm really excited, and like I said, this is the end of an era, so there's definitely a lot to discuss. And despite some of the divisiveness that may have happened in this last chapter, I just want to thank Isayama for all his work and his dedication. We really appreciate it, and I'm just glad I got to be part of this adventure. So that being said, we're going to give our thoughts on the manga chapter, obviously do some review and our reactions, and it's going to be so much fun. So the way we start this chapter is with some dialogue between Eren and Armin. And this is them talking in the past. And I really like this scene because when Armin is asking about, like, did you really have to hit me like that? Did you have to knee me? It just made me feel so like emotional because it's like brotherly love or sibling love. Like no matter what, no matter how hard they fight, they'll still love each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think Isayama, like, he didn't hold back, like bringing them back as little kids when they were young and innocent. And I mean, if he wants to like grab your heart, showing them as children is always the way to do it. So I thought this was kind of like a low blow, but also, like way to hurt me. Just show me them as kids,
Yeah, exactly. And that's pretty much what this whole chapter kind of did. Just was an emotional roller coaster, just like the series in general. And I guess before we even get too much deeper into this actual scene, I want to ask you, what are your general thoughts about the manga itself being over?
The manga itself being over is, I don't know that I've processed it. I mean, I took Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like I told my family, consider me at an anime con this weekend because I'm not going to be around. All I'm going to be doing is discussing this series, processing this series. It's been part of my life for 9 years.
Yeah.
It's a long time, every month, and not just as a reader, but doing the chapter polls, doing a podcast, being active on Tumblr, being active on Discord, and it's been a good 9 years. It's been a wonderful hobby. I've met amazing people. And I think it's also benefited me as a person in a lot of ways. So, no matter what happened this chapter, none of that was going to be taken away from me. All of that was going to be a net positive. So it's very emotional. I'm excited it's over. I'm sad it's over. I mean, I don't even know where to go with the emotions. And I imagine it's the same for you.
It definitely is. I couldn't have explained that better. And that's exactly how I was feeling when I started reading it. So I think he did such a great job of opening up with that scene.
Yeah, definitely. Go right back to the beginning. I mean, that's
exactly
how you do it.
Yeah, and then even as we'll talk more about this scene in general, Eren and Armin sort of grow up and age over time as they're talking. And they're seeing all these different sceneries and views from like Armin's book. And I just think that's like a nice way to parallel how far we've come.
Yeah. I think I have a lot of favorite moments from this, but Isayama introducing the idea that in that paths dimension that Eren and Armin were able to do everything they ever talked about. Their relationship not just got closure, but they they might have spent years together in that past world. They might have traveled the world together. I mean, it was a very nice ending for Armin. And I think a gift for the readers too, because well, the last 2 years, the manga has just been bad to worse to as far as what
Yes,
was happening.
tragic.
Yes. So knowing that they were able to at least have some nice time, I appreciate that. I'm not a doom and gloom person, so I'm happy to know that they got to like do their bucket list of items that they had intended on.
Yeah, I agree. I really like how you said that they could have spent years in there for all we
Hmm.
know. Because as we know how past work with the Zeke interaction, time is completely different and it takes place in a split second. And we actually get that explanation where we learn that this happened back in chapter 130 when the bird was by Armin on the ship. And I was just so happy, but also surprised to see that plot thread kind of come back and resurface. He does such a good job
Yeah.
of bringing things back up like that. Even though some things maybe, as we'll talk about later, didn't get explained in the best way. I think this was a really good one.
Yeah, I agreed. I didn't mind the structure of this at all, and I did not mind this opening was perfect. And I think a lot of us had predicted that this would start off with an Eren Armin flashback. We really hadn't gotten much of Armin. Last chapter was Mikasa. This chapter
Mhm.
had to be Armin.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, I get. Do you have anything else you want to say on it before we go into like the actual conversations they start to have?
Nope, that's it for the general thoughts on that section.
Okay, cool. Because once they start actually talking and Eren is explaining himself, is when it really starts to blow my mind. Um, because he tells Armin that basically the history of Ymir Fritz and the fact that she was actually in love with the first Eldian king, and that was something I never would have thought. Yeah, like I understood that she had a slave mentality in a way, but I never would have guessed that it was actual love relationship. But now it kind of explains why Ymir Fritz was maybe smiling at the end of the last chapter when Mikasa kissed Eren.
Yeah, I this is one of those areas I have I think a lot of people have emotions about. Like I don't mind I think he was trying to establish a lot of people have called it a Stockholm syndrome type situation.
Yes.
And I do agree with that, but I'm not sure that's the kind of thing that needs to be like dropped in a chapter unexplained or I think if that's the kind of thing that's going to be developed, like I don't mind in theory, I can sort of process the whole thing. She was in love with this king, even though he was abusive to her. This is a bad relationship. He treated her horribly. This happens in real life. People in abusive situations have difficulty getting out. But I don't know,
Right.
just like springing it on us like that without really giving it time to rest in our brains. There was just so much in this chapter. There wasn't a lot of time to really reflect on these statements. They're just hitting us in the face one after another. And this is one that I definitely think if it was hinted at earlier on, it should have been more strongly hinted at earlier on.
Yeah, I definitely think so too because it feels like or when I say he, I mean Isayama. It was done just to usher in that next part to draw the parallel with
Hmm.
Mikasa, and the fact that she's in love with Eren and she's been the key to all this from the beginning, and the fact she needed to be freed from her love. I guess if that's a good way to say it.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think, but at the same time, it does have seeds in what he's shown us before because remember what Kenny Ackerman said was that everyone was a slave to something. So in many ways, maybe it's like they were just slaves to their love, even if it wasn't like a justified love. Like obviously, we don't think it made too much sense, but as you stated, it could happen in real life to people when they're in these kinds of relationships.
Yeah. I know a lot of people complained about Mikasa being the parallel to OG Ymir. But
Mm,
I think, and it's not something I've enjoyed people saying, but certainly the theme has been there, even like people derogatorily calling Mikasa slave Casa, the fact that
yeah, yeah.
Mikasa is a slave to Eren. And, you know, again, I always rejected that mindset because to me, she never was. She was devoted. She loved him, but I never saw the Ackerman instinct as being slave like. So now looking back, I'm wondering, was I supposed to see it as slave like? Or, was it
Mm.
just sort of a surface? Was it sort of a surface presentation? But the fact that so much of the fandom had that preconceived notion for her. And when chapter 112 came out, when he called her a slave, a lot of people just generally accepted that statement. So like you were saying, I do think the parallels have been there, or at least now reading this and tracing back through 138 chapters, we can draw the parallels, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know if they were obvious to me right away.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you're saying. Like you can make that parallel in hindsight now. Um, but I don't know if that was originally what was intended. Maybe, maybe not. But what I did want to ask you, you kind of already answered it, was if it made sense to take that angle this late in the game, being that it is the final chapter. Um,
Well, I don't know where you've been looking online, but the corners that I've been in, that's I think what people are most angry about is they feel like it wasn't foreshadowed. But
mm,
I'm actually okay with it. I this is one of those areas where I knew Mikasa was going to be important. She started the story, she was going to end it. It's just how it ended it that I think caught me off guard.
yeah, and like you mentioned, chapter 112, I'm still reeling off of that moment. Still,
Mhm. That
yeah,
was hard.
I'll never get over it. And then we just had the anime scene where it happened not too long ago. So
And
it's
they made
just
it so much more brutal. They just oh my god.
yeah, it is very intense and emotional. And
Did you
we
in 112 when you watched it, did you think he meant it? Did you think he actually hated her? What was your take on that scene?
well, no, when I was first experiencing in that, I didn't think that he actually meant it. I had this feeling like there's no way Eren would be saying that. He has to have a motive behind it. However, I didn't understand what it was yet. It
Mm.
wasn't until I got much more context, about Zeke's plan and all these things that I started to understand it. But at the time, I was very upset with him.
I was
But
too.
I just wasn't ready to chalk it up to like, oh, he really does feel that way.
Yeah, I think I was in the same. I hated it. I knew there was an explanation, but yeah, to get to, I mean, I think as time has gone on, a lot of us assumed it was because he wanted to push them away. But dude, what a way to do it! Like, just cut them to the core.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
couldn't have been more brutal.
And that's literally what he says when he explains it to Armin. It's like he wanted them to be the heroes, and he wanted the outside world to view them as heroes for going against the rumbling and killing him.
Hmm.
And we'll get into all the other repercussions of that as well. But it's very interesting how Eren had all these conversations with everyone and then used the fountain titan to erase their memories. Like we didn't know that until now. But do you think that's related to the long dream Mikasa had in the last chapter?
I've seen debate on this. Now, I personally think that Mikasa's headaches were tied into it. I don't think they were. I think they were significant. Um, I do think that that last vision she got, she's the only character who remembered it before Eren died. I mean, my
Right.
rationalization is that the non-Ackermans couldn't remember the dream until the Titan powers were gone because that founding Titan power, those being connected as Eldians, was the memory control aspect. So the moment that was gone, all of their memories come back. But with Mikasa, they came back before she killed him. So I think that that kind of is a nod to the fact that she's an Ackerman and he couldn't truly erase her memories. Now the
Right.
time travel back to that, like those little time travel elements, I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my head around all that. Like, I don't know if this is a time loop or what, but I definitely agree that it has a lot to do with her being an Ackerman
Hmm.
and like because they already told us that Ackermans can't have their memory wiped.
Yeah, so I think she got her vision. It looks like the others got their visions at some point that maybe we're not entirely clear on, but I think she got hers exactly in chapter 138 at that moment. I think the pounding headaches, I don't think this is a case like Armin where she got her memory on the boat, 4 days ago. She got it at that moment because it couldn't be. She couldn't be memory wiped, so it had to be at the last minute. I mean, that's how I'm choosing to see it. I think there's a lot of debate on that, though.
Yeah, no, I definitely see what you're saying. I think it's left to be kind of ambiguous though for a reason. I know a lot of people are still wondering like why weren't certain things explained fully, and I think it was left to be that way for a reason. Like we were told as much as we needed for most things, just so that the story could continue and still
Mhm.
be meaningful. Because I think it was still very meaningful at the end, despite how people may feel about how we got there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Um, but yeah, I was just very very shook by like the twist that we would get in the next few panels when Eren explains that he killed 80% of humanity.
Oh man.
And that was just the first part.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oddly specific. Yeah. And also, this was, what did somebody say? Like a choose your own adventure ending, because there were elements of like every theory in there.
And
You know.
yeah, literally, like so much things that we talked about, and there's another part too later that I'm gonna bring up because so much things that we talked about came true, but then there were a lot of things that we had no idea they were gonna
Yeah.
happen. So
Yeah,
I
definitely.
I I gotta enjoy it. I can't lie.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. Like, I don't know what your experience was reading the chapter, but I read it with friends and on camera, and we recorded it, and I had the best time of my life with this chapter. So it's really hard to it was entertaining, it was surprising, it was emotional, like it hit the right beats. The content of it, I think, the criticisms have some merit, but as far as this chapter just blowing my mind, yeah, it did the job. If that was Isayama's intention, he did the job.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then you talk about how like I was feeling when I first read it. I actually was just waking up. It was about 6 a.m. for me.
Oh
I
man.
don't remember what day. I think it was the day after it had officially dropped. And my friend just texted me like, the chapter's out. And I'm like, what? So
Now,
I go,
did you read the fan translation or the official first?
I read the fan first, yeah, and then
Okay,
then I
okay.
went back and read the official. So yeah, but when I was reading it, I was just like, this is really happening because not only is the chapter itself an emotional roller coaster, but it's the last chapter. So no
Mhm.
matter what, like you said at the beginning, this was gonna be rough.
Yeah,
But I still did have a lot of fun. And I still did enjoy the chapter. Like we can get into ratings and all that once we finish up, but
yeah.
I still did enjoy the chapter. The next part that really threw me off though, not just the him killing 80%, it was the fact that he revealed, well, he didn't really say it, but they insinuated it, was that he sent Dinah Fritz's smiling Titan
Dude.
to go eat Carla at the beginning. So what's
Did
your
you
thoughts
take
on
it?
that?
Well, let me ask you, did you take it that Aaron did it or just that he was aware that Ymir did it? Because I know it was left a little bit open, when
Right.
it's the dot 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 like Isayama loves to do, where we end up having to make our own decisions. I mean, I don't
I
know.
feel I feel like he kind of had some part in it.
I do
The
too.
the way it was just shown to us. I definitely feel you. It's ambiguous for a reason, but
Yes.
the I don't know the way he says it though.
Well, Armin's face after he says it, that's what got me. Armin's
Yeah,
look of
that too.
complete, like
Like
Armin got it, even if it's not entirely clear to the fandom. Armin understood and was horrified. So I do wonder, like, right before recording this, we were just finishing up the chapter poll, which will be online in a couple of hours, or I guess
Nice.
whenever this is published. But one question we did ask was Eren aware when he saved Bert that it would result in his mother's death? Or, I mean, I don't know if he was it an unintentional consequence. And I don't think we know that. I don't think we can even make a determination there. I would like to believe that Eren saved Bert, not knowing what would happen next. And that, I mean, that just makes it all the more worse. Although, can that get worse? I don't think that can get worse. So,
No, I mean, yeah, I definitely see that, and then the fact that they show that panel again that shows you, like Bertolt when he kind of surprised at seeing the Smiling Titan, and we've seen that memory come up before. But then also the fact that what Eren says later is that he was just following the path or something
yeah,
along those lines, that this was all, going to be this way, and he just did what he had to do to make it reach here. So I think that
yeah.
that really doubles down on what you just said. So I can't disagree with you.
I am glad that the Bertold question was answered because I know when we got those memory shards, that's something a lot of people zeroed in on instantly was Aaron's ability to see memories that were not his own. So of all the mysteries that we didn't get answered, at least here's one that we did.
Right, right. Again, like you said, we did get some answers that we were
Yeah.
asking, so that's good. But yeah, I was really happy to see that because I was predicting that as well. That he must have seen through Dinah Fritz's eyes, or something like that. Again, when we get into the past and all that
Hmm.
lore behind it, it is so difficult to explain it entirely. But I feel like what we know is enough to draw certain conclusions.
Yeah. Yeah, we can make some educated guesses and yeah, I mean that's been the thing with this chapter. Like I think people can explain it in a way that makes them comfortable. There's just enough of an outline there of what happened and enough open space that we can fill in the blanks. So I don't know how I feel about this. Like Aaron potentially killing his own mother for what he needed to do. I mean, but why not? He killed 80% of the population. What's the big deal? What's one more life? But I don't know. It's hard for me to reconcile that with Aaron.
Yeah, I guess Eren has truly become a character that we can't
No.
understand. His friends can't understand. It's just he's on a completely different line of thinking. Um, but pretty much after the conversations is when we finally get to shift to see what everybody else is doing, as far as Armin in his human form and Rhina and the others. And, you were talking about this on your last podcast, whether or not the the transformations would get reversed, and in
We
this chapter they did.
Yeah, we got that wrong. Luna and I both thought it was going to be permanent. So what was your theory? Did you think they would come back to human form?
I did not think they would come back. I
Okay.
was with you. I thought that was permanent. I was heartbroken. Like I was crying at the scene when Connie and Jean are hugging each other, having their last words. But I had no type of thinking that they would go one more chapter and then reverse it like that.
So
But I guess
are you disappointed by that or are you glad?
I'm pretty. I don't really know how to feel yet, to be
Yeah.
honest. No one's asked me that question. I'm sorry, but I guess if you put me on the spot to say, I will say I am glad because I feel like it gives the characters at least a chance to have a bit of a happier ending in a way.
Yeah.
Like we know how this ends later, but even with everything that happened, if they would have got just turned into Titans and that been the end of the story for them, that would have just been much more tragic to me than what
Mhm.
we ended up getting.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think it viewing the chapter as a whole, I'm not sorry they transformed. And we can get into that later about their future role. But, I think it was, for me, it was very dependent on the ending. And I honestly did not see an ending this happy. And granted, you know, it's hard to call this ending happy, but it's much happier than I thought it would be.
For sure, for sure. And as we've heard, Isayama probably changed the ending several times before getting to this point. But do you think this was somewhat of what he was always going for?
We have this on the poll, so I can't wait to see what the
Nice,
fandom
nice.
in general thinks. But I mean, I've read every interview where he's talked about the ending, and I think I tend to believe that it's the broad strokes that, you know, in the course, he started this when he was 19. In the course of going from 19 to 30, he probably changed his mind. And I don't blame him for that. I think that's normal. But I think the broad strokes of the ending are certainly what he had planned.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's kind of evident. I mean, you think about the final panel supposedly that we had of someone holding the baby saying you're free.
Hmm.
We saw that a while ago, and now we finally got the context of where it was going to be. It was a little bit different than I expected. What did you think?
Oh, definitely. Well, actually, we did a final chapter poll a while ago, theories, and I did think that it would be Grisha holding Eren, so that didn't surprise me. I was happy to get that one right, but I think the fact that the fandom built it up, understandably,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
being a thing, and that it ended up being not a thing. And plenty of fans, when we got those memory shard chapters and saw Grisha holding baby Eren, was like, oh, that's the final panel. So I don't think, again, it was a surprise, but it wasn't out of nowhere. I think it was, I've been wondering this a lot. Like, we as the fans who had different theories, did we read it wrong? Or was the build, like, did we build it up more, or did Sayama build it up and we just misinterpreted? Like, who's at fault here? And I think the answer is both, right? I think he liked to set up mysteries. He liked to try to make us think outside the box. But then as a fandom, with a month to think about this stuff every single month for years, to focus and dwell, we probably put more thought into this than we should have, which is just the unavoidable side effect of being part of a ongoing series. So, you know, yes, but as intended. So I was fine. I was fine with that.
yeah. And I think that's exactly what it is. We can't help it. We see these things, and we just have to create these crazy theories about what they
Hmm.
mean. And sometimes they're just meant to be a small part of the narrative,
I
and
think
that's what
about,
we build it up.
yeah. Yeah, I think about how many times in the poll we're like, what did this mean? And we're all focused on it. And the next chapter, it's nothing. You know, he spends 30 days a month drawing the next chapter. We spend 30 days a month focusing on the old one. So we have a little bit of an advantage there when it comes to theorizing.
Right, right. Something I was a little bit confused about is, now that all the Titans are gone, okay, that makes sense because they killed Eren. Gabby transforms back, Falco, everyone, like even the shifters transform back. But where's the centipede now?
I have a feeling. I think the art, the that thing flaming in the background is the centipede disappearing. I This is one of those
Okay.
things where I really hope the anime is able, with the use of color, to kind of identify that. But it
Yeah.
has to be. It has to be that flaming thing in the background, right? That
Yeah,
has to be
yeah,
the
I know what you're
centipede.
talking about. Yeah, I had the
Yeah.
same kind of inkling, but I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, it just was dropped. Like the big mystery, the last chapter cliffhanger was that they were dead if something didn't happen. And then this
Yeah.
chapter is like, poof, gone. So I don't mind that though. Like we theorized that, and a lot of people had that the parasite was, or that this shiny centipede was a parasite, and parasites can't live outside their host. And underscore on our 137, 138, 137 podcast had said that he thought it was in the process of dying, that all the smoke, that it's writhing around, that, being outside of its host for the first time in 2000 years, it was in the process of dying.
Yeah.
So killing air and severing that connection, I'm okay with it going poof. I didn't want any more of the chapter focused on it anyway. I was very happy with that.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you that it wasn't necessary to maybe dwell too much on it anymore. But again, I was just wondering if that absolutely correlated with it dying, Eren
Yeah.
dying, because it could have tried to just get to another host, or does it have to be someone who has the founding titan.
I mean, that's what I said. We can reconcile it, right? Clearly, it has to be the founding titan. It couldn't jump into Reiner's spinal column.
Yeah,
But
because they
I
were
do
in
think,
contact.
yeah, like one more line, one more. He could have just spelled it out. Oh, Reiner could have said killing Eren killed the centipede. Like he could have spelled it out for us, but he didn't. We're left
Yeah,
looking at a vaguely smoky, fiery thing and going, okay, well, I guess this is what happened.
I think we're missing those times when Armin just explains everything to us.
Exactly.
And
We're missing our favorite spokesman, Mr. Pace the audience and tell us 3 cups and every logical thing that's happening.
yeah, yeah, they used to draw us a diagram and everything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's it. We're not in training wheels anymore. We don't get diagrams anymore. We are like, 11-year strong manga readers. And so no training wheels, no helmets. He gives us the puzzle pieces and expects us to put it together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of like more of our predictions, uh, there was something you had been talking about on your podcast with Luna for a while. I've been hearing it come up, and we
Uh-oh.
got some sort of. You might already know where I'm going with that, but we got some sort of answer too. And I'm talking about what may be an afterlife
Yeah.
when the smoke clears. We'll talk about Mikasa and Armin in a sec too, but I
Okay.
really want to talk about this. When the smoke is there, we see all the old scouts appearing right in front of Levi, and he sort of like comes to peace with himself, like, okay, this is what you guys all wanted. It came true. And then we also see Jean and Connie see Sasha doing her scout salute. And that was just so touching to me. I can't express that enough.
It was incredible. Like, I think the moment I'm happiest, not just because I was right, I'm not going to call it afterlife theory. What I have discovered, Nasty, is that people don't like it being called afterlife because they have a very set vision of what an afterlife is. So I'm
Right.
calling it the pathster life or whatever. It's like the paths version of the afterlife. Basically,
Nice.
their souls being trapped in paths. So, yes, in fact, when we got to this page, Luna was wearing a t-shirt that said wrong manga. I was wearing one that said fake pregnancy. And when we got to this page, she pointed to it and she says, "Here, I've been saying wrong manga, and you were actually right manga." So I was if you've listened to the podcast, she does not agree with me ever. So it was nice
Oh
getting
no,
that moment.
I know you guys get into it all the time. Trust me, I know.
So yeah, seeing the pathster life and knowing that Hanji's vision was not just Isayama being nice to people. It was actually a real thing. That made me happy. And not because it's good storytelling, just because I like to be right once in a while, and I'm usually not. So I was very happy. But yeah,
I know,
what
I
a
know.
great moment. Like, I mean, I don't want to say did you cry, but seeing Levi in this moment with the tear, it killed me.
Yeah, I know. I was definitely shaken up. I had tears in my eyes. You heard it here first. I had
There
tears
we
in my
go.
eyes. I'm not ashamed. This is the last chapter, okay?
we're gonna go out with a bang here. We cried, okay? We cried.
Exactly. But no, that's awesome because once I saw that, I instantly thought back to you and your
Oh.
episode when you brought that up. Because I'm like, oh, I know she's gonna have something to say about this.
Yep.
Uh,
And Petter was also your previous guest. Petter was also Team Afterlife or Pathster Life, whatever we want to call it. So Petter and I were doing like a virtual high five over this moment.
nice, nice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to him about it. See what his thoughts were on this last chapter too, because this was insane.
But I think we'd even said that that when paths ended, that this was not going to be a happy ending. This wasn't going to be oh, they're in heaven. It was going to be them fading away. They would fade away when paths faded away. And that's what
Yeah,
happened. So it's also, it hurts too. Now, is there another afterlife? And I will personally choose to believe there is because I don't like the story ever being over. But whatever they were in paths now is over. They've faded away. And once again, Levi's left the last man standing.
yeah, and yeah. I see what you're saying. It's like that's maybe the last time they're gonna see them in that way.
Yeah.
Even if that's like, whether it's a spirit or a vision, however you want to explain it. But
Yeah.
I
Whatever
definitely
existence
see it.
they had is over now. That existence is over.
Yeah.
So I'm
All
gonna
right.
start crying.
Well,
I'm gonna start crying just looking at
no,
this. So
yeah, no,
we gotta move on.
that's why I'm like, all right, let's try to go now to something a little bit more. I guess it's not even any much easier to talk about.
No.
But once Armin explains to Mikasa that, it's over now, and this is what it was. They all kind of had the same conversations with Eren. She emerges with his decapitated head, and I'm just like, really? Like, no. Like, but it makes sense because now they're gonna go bury him under the tree where he used to sleep, and it comes full circle. So
Yeah.
okay,
I
makes
gotta
sense,
give
and I
I gotta
like
give
it.
Luna a shout out there. We have I have a timestamp where Luna said that Mikasa would bury Eren's head under the tree. So I'm very proud of her for getting that one right.
Yeah, that's spot on.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Armin, of course, talking to the Marleyan soldiers, and the general, who I can't remember his name right now.
Muller or
Muller.
Mueller?
Okay.
I never
Yes.
know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're kind of in a standoff because they still don't trust the Eldians, being that they all just were Titans only a couple minutes ago. And Armin kind of steps up and says that he was the one that killed Eren after Mikasa goes and kind of escapes before that happens. So, what do you think about Armin taking that stance? Like, was that, like, is it any more impactful for him to be the one saying it? Like, is that what Eren was basically telling him by saying, "I want you to be the ones seen as heroes for stopping the rumbling"?
I only put that together with you talking about it just this moment. To my mind, when I read it, he was just protecting Mikasa. He was kind of setting Mikasa free.
Oh, okay, okay,
But I think you're right. I think one of the reasons why, now that you've said it, I think you're right. I think one of the reasons Eren said it was, and why Armin stepped up is for exactly that reason. Like, I think that seed was planted there, and he wanted to take becoming the hero, becoming a hero. You'll be the one to save humanity, Armin. I think Armin maybe saw it as his role. So I was probably wrong on that, my initial read. Either way, I was very grateful to Armin for doing that, because one thing that I've always been against wasn't so much Mikasa having to kill Eren. It was Mikasa having to live with that. Nobody else has had to kill the person they love. But he kept her from being the face of that publicly. And I'm really grateful for that. She didn't need to live as the Eldian from Paradise who killed Eren Yeager. I'm really glad that's not her label.
yeah, yeah. Because I mean, I guess no one else truly knows that, except for maybe Levi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Um,
he's not going to say anything.
yeah. um, I guess something that I had predicted was gonna happen in this chapter that did was a time skip,
Mm-hmm.
and it was much less than I had predicted. It wasn't as much as the chapter as I thought it was gonna be, but we did get to see all the characters get older, and see what they're doing 3 years later after this. That whole battle gets called the Battle of Heaven and Earth, which I believe was chapter 135's title, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it basically goes down in history as this huge war. But then we still have the Jaegerists who control the island, and they're still militarized, and they're basically still prepping themselves to go to war with the rest of the outside. And now the scouts, or what used to be the scouts, Armin, Jean, and everybody else, who are now also joined by Peak and Reiner, they're coming back now as ambassadors for some sort of allied nation. So, what do you think about where the future went with that? Because they're still kind of fighting, like nothing was
Yeah.
really resolved.
Well, and that's why I'm not disappointed that they were transformed back to humans because exactly what you said, they're still fighting. They're not done. They're still cleaning up Aaron's mess. And the
Yeah.
fact that they have a purpose and it's not a very clean, happy ending. I actually really, really love the political situation being exposed the way it was. I initially had hoped maybe that Rico and Surma and some of those people had overthrown the Jaegerists once Flock was gone and their organization was in shambles. I mean, I think I'd wanted that because I don't like the idea of Paradis becoming a militarized imperialistic nation. The fact that it did is better. Uh, it's believable. I I applaud Isayama for taking that step. You know, so yeah, I mean, it's hard to see. But it's not unrealistic. And I would put this up there as one of my top 5 favorite moments of the chapter, finding out just how far this went politically and how it's not fixed and it may never be fixed. It's very
Right.
Attack on Titan. It's very Attack on
Yeah,
Titan.
exactly,
Oh,
exactly. So fitting.
like it hurts
Um,
me to see them scream and fight, 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 and it hurts. Why can't they just be a normal country now? Why do they have to be like this? God, Aaron, why did you put Flock in charge? Why couldn't you put
yeah, oh man.
Oh,
Lot.
but
But I mean, there's so much, like how you said, it's very fitting. Like even while we're learning all this by means of Historia's letter that she gives to them, like with this serious situation, we have this funny moment where you got Reiner sniffing the
oh
letter,
my God.
and it's
Okay,
like,
okay, I gotta ask you. On a scale from 1 to 5, where 1 is that this is like a top 10 manga betrayal, and 10 is that you like it, you're glad to see him happy. Where do you fall on that moment? Reiner sniffing the letter. Is it a manga betrayal, or is it one where you're, oh look, he's so cute, he's having fun, he's just a goofy boy? Where do you stand on that one?
I think I'm probably like a 6,
Hmm.
maybe a 7, but like a 6.5, because I don't know, that seems very immature
Oh
of
yeah.
Reiner, especially given where we are right now. But yeah, I guess it is like it must be some trope that he wanted to just throw in there. But I did think it was funny. Like I did still laugh while reading it. What do you think?
I mean, I think it was funny, but I don't know, man. I just feel like I think Reiner and Warrior fans in general just got the shaft. And this was just like the ice. This was the cherry on top of the shaft sundae. Like going back
I'm
a
gonna
little
have to
bit.
ask Petter how he feels.
Oh yeah, yeah. I asked him. I want to know. I need to listen to their podcast. I know theirs is done. I never listened to theirs until I'm done with my own. So, but like even that moment, Jean and Connie got to see Sasha. Levi got to see his friends. Reiner had to see Corinna. Why couldn't he have seen his friends? He
Yeah.
didn't. He didn't get to be Helos. He didn't get to see his dead warrior friends. And then his last moment is sniffing a letter. Like, ooh, stick the knife and just twist it extra hard for all the warrior fans. I don't know. I
Yeah. And he tries to take Gene down with him too, and call
uh-huh.
him a horse.
I'm actually more okay with Gene being like that because Gene's kind of been a perv all along. I mean, like the port scene where he was thinking about the co-ed baths, like he's always kind of been presented as sort of a cad
Yeah.
or, a little bit
Yeah.
pervy. But
Yeah.
Reiner,
No, that's
come
very much in
on.
his character.
Like Reiner, no, do not be that guy. I mean, I get it. I get it. Like you said, it was supposed to be something nice for the fans. But this is one of those areas that I really hope the anime gives us a little bit more, something not making suicide jokes and a field guide to horses and letter sniffing, just some something a little more dignified. I think Reiner earned something a little more dignified.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he just helped save the world, right?
Yeah. I mean, I cringed when I saw it. I mean, I laughed, but it was like one of those laughs that's just like, oh, don't be that guy, Reiner. Don't be sniffing married women letters.
Seriously.
Oh,
um. So, so I guess another question I have: Are Armin and Annie together?
I don't know. What do you think?
I think they are. I mean, it's not explicitly said or anything, but I just get that feeling.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm seeing things. Maybe I'm making up things in my head, but I feel like they're together.
I would like to think they are together. If they are, then it just adds to the happy ending. What's up
Yeah.
with her hair though? Her like everybody got this gorgeous glow up and Annie is just like I don't know who styled her hair, but that's not good.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. We also see Historia's child too,
We do. We do.
and that looks like Armin. I know it's not Armin. I know it's not Armin's child. I'm just saying it looks like Armin.
Well, what's funny is I don't know how much into theories that you got, but I know people always thought that Armin and Historia were like Armin was a secret Reese because he looks like Historia. Armin is a
Oh
secret royal
God.
because he looks like Yuri. I mean, Armin looks like Historia. He looked like Yuri. He definitely looked royal. So the
Yeah.
fact that the baby carries on the tradition, the Armin Arlert tradition, I'm actually okay with that. I really think it's because Isayama can only draw like 5 faces, and so he just recycles them.
Yeah. Do you think that confirms though that the farmer is the father?
Yeah,
We can put that
definitely.
to rest finally.
Abs- Thank God. Yes.
Thank God, yes. I had promised on one of my episodes, like, because I was saying and being so adamant. 'Cause at first, I did think that he may have been the father, but as we got more chapters, I was like, no, he's definitely not.
Yeah.
So I had promised, like, if he is, I will do a public apology. I will do whatever it is you need me to do to make up for that. But I'm glad I don't have to go through it now because he is
I
not
w-
the father.
I would have had to change my name, delete all my social media accounts.
Oh
Like
no.
it would have been ugly. It would have been ugly. Yeah, I'm really glad too. And like I said, like I'm watching the anime with my partner. He's anime only. And the minute Historia was revealed as pregnant, he said the words, "Oh, when did her and Eren get together?" And
Oh yes, everyone.
if I could have shot lasers out of my eyes and scorched him on the couch, believe me, I would have done it because this has not been a good topic for me. But that was his knee jerk reaction as an anime viewer. And so I like him. So I should officially accept the fact that, making that assumption is not necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, I feel like there's been no evidence that I think people that held on to that theory till the end, they just dug their heels in and hoped. And yeah, it's not there. So I'm glad it's over. I'm mostly with this whole Historia thing. I'm glad it's over. Isayama took too long to rip off that particular band-aid.
Yeah, I agree. I'm so glad it's over too. We can put that
Yeah.
to rest. No
Yeah.
more of those theories. But we also got to see Gabby and Falco grow up and be with Levi in the wheelchair. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool.
Is this okay? Honestly, of all the epilogue photos, is that one your favorite or do you have a different favorite?
That one's my favorite.
Yeah, mine too. Mine too.
Just because I don't know why, but I just like it so much. It just feels so wholesome to me. Like, okay,
It,
these are
yeah.
people that were on two completely different sides, two completely different generations. But now, after everything that they've gone through together, they'll keep moving forward together.
What somebody pointed out to me that I really appreciated is that Levi looks very comfortable being pushed in the chair by Falco. It's
Yeah.
not like this is the first time it's happened. You really do get the sense that these four have stayed together, and I do love that. I loved Levi. Levi's one of my favorite characters. I would say top 5 favorite characters, top 3 maybe.
Oh, for
So
sure.
the anxiety about what was going to happen to him has been like the last way Isayama could break my heart. He broke my heart with Erwin. He broke it with Hanji. Levi was the last chance for him to just destroy me. And he didn't. I got something nice. So I'm happy. Like, it's so good. It's so good to see Levi alive and just living his life. He's done. He's not an ambassador. He's not fighting. He's done, and he deserved it.
Yeah, yeah. He's done all he can do, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And played his part. And I feel like that's just pretty much what all this was everyone playing their part,
Yeah.
even Eren.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess when we get that final scene wrapping up here,
My goodness.
the feels, the
The
feels.
feels.
We
And
have
you've seen,
Mikasa.
have you seen the
Oh,
translation of the gravestone?
no, I haven't.
Oh, I should tell you what the translation is.
Yes, tell me.
Okay, I have to look it up. So you can keep talking while I do that looking up.
Okay. So we have Mikasa sitting under the tree. I don't know if this is maybe her just visiting Eren in his resting place, but I'm sure she's done this several times before within these 3 years. And she's telling him that all their friends are coming to visit him. She's asking him if this is what he wanted, but she starts to cry because she really misses him and she
Yeah.
wishes she could see him again. And I felt that. I really felt that because I understand, it's hard to have let go of someone you really care about like that. And especially for her, like she's the embodiment of that. And then, lo and behold, even Ymir Fritz herself thought so too. So,
Hmm.
now she starts crying and then a bird all of a sudden pops up and ties her scarf around her once more time and she thanks him for it because that's pretty much Eren's spirit in a way.
Hmm. Yeah, we got bird theory. I remember, all the weird birds, and we kind of were like, we talked about bird theory, and maybe the ghosts are the birds. And I can't believe I not only got ghost theory, I got bird theory. So
Yeah.
apparently Eren is the bird, or the indication is there that he's been reincarnated in some way. Yeah, that
I
killed me. Like that, it was the perfect ending for Mikasa. I have no complaints. It was heartbreaking. It was beautiful. It was thematic. It was that darn bird showing up though, I just like, okay,
I mean,
here's what the tombstone says. So the translation of Aaron's headstone is here forever, resting peacefully, my most beloved, my dear, 854. So no name, no
aw,
words about being a hero, just here resting peacefully forever, my most beloved, my dear. So it's very private. It's just this is Mikasa's memorial. This is not he's not a martyr with a maybe he is somewhere on the island. There's like a big statue to him. I don't know. But this is just Mikasa's simple final words to him. And it's very touching.
yeah, yeah, I think so too. But about the bird thing, and I really like that it's just private with just him and Mikasa. It's not some grandiose writing on his stone. But
Hmm.
I don't think that he is like literally reincarnated as a bird. I've heard a lot of people saying that,
You think he's
and
just controlling the birds? Or you think it's just an accident?
I
Or
think, yeah, I think he's controlling the birds. Yeah, I
okay.
think that's part of his abilities, and like since his spirit is still alive, he can still do that because that was how he got to talk to Armin in the first place. How that this conversation that this chapter started with, that's how it happened in that split second where that bird landed next to Armin, and we were like, why is that bird there? Like, is Eren looking through that bird's eyes or something? And we also saw in one of the memory shards that he saw Falco in the beginning of the Marley arc when he's looking up at the sky. So we already got those bits and pieces that maybe Eren can control birds. So I don't think it's literally that he became that bird.
Yeah.
Uh, that's
Yeah,
that's
that's
just my thoughts. That's
okay.
just my interpretation, obviously.
Well, we have it on the poll. So, and I just double checked because I wanted to make sure we had that option. We do have as an option that he controls the birds. So I
Yeah,
guess that
you need
moment,
that one.
yes. So I think we got you covered. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's still hard to understand how he could have controlled the bird that saw Falco over top of Falco's. in the very first chapter 91. And, I think that's where we get into that whole time loop thing where if he can control the birds, it goes way back to that opening panel with Falco in chapter 91, which
Hmm.
again, we don't
Hmm.
really have an explanation for. So we just sort of nod our heads and say, okay, that's how it happened.
Right, right. Um, I guess what I liked about this chapter, as we started to finish up, was that we finally got to have some sort of a confession from Eren that he did love Mikasa.
Did you like that?
I did. I liked it very much.
Me too.
Okay, you kind of scared me there the way you said it. I was like, but no, I really like that because I guess I'm a shipper. If you, I don't really like to get into that, but I wanted Eren and Mikasa to be together. So at the very
Yes.
least, for him to say that is like, okay, because you had a lot of explaining to do after saying you hated her.
Yeah, he owed her. He owed her. Okay, I'm with you, right? I think it went much further, like the depths of his love, like falling on the ground and screaming that, he wanted her to never be with some like it went a lot further than I thought it would. So I always thought this was going to be Aaron and Mikasa's story. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to look at chapter 1 and, just kind of, they started it, they're going to end it, but I was not expecting Aaron to go full blown having a temper tantrum about Mikasa Ackerman.
Yeah,
I don't mind it. I don't mind it. But Isayama, like, it was a go big or go home moment for him, and he just went big with it. He went big with Aaron's feelings for Mikasa.
yeah. Where does this chapter rank for you in like with all the others?
I so it's this is a weird chapter for me. Um, I basically like almost every moment. But there's a few moments that are so unsettling to me, like just really like Armin thanking Eren, and the way it's been interpreted is Armin thanking Eren for genociding the world. The fact that Eren really in this chapter, well, you probably saw it on Reddit. Some people went in there and changed 5 words, maybe 10 words at the most, and turned this into Eren being a full blown hero. I'm a little uncomfortable with that perception. So the general, I like the chapter, but there's a little bit of distaste there too. Like it makes me uncomfortable on levels that some other chapters have not. When I look at the moments though, I love it. Like it's so weird. It's such a weird chapter for me. I mean, I think what I would say is 6 or 7 of 10. Like it was a good chapter. And the series as a
Mhm.
whole, probably 8 or 9 of 10, maybe 10 of 10. Like if I'm being honest with myself.
Mhm.
But I think the complaints that I've seen about this chapter are very justified in the presentation, in, just I think it made a lot of people, at least on the Western side. I think in Japan, they're probably better with it. But a lot of people I know, my entire Discord server, all feel very uncomfortable with just how far Isayama went to, you know, not present Eren as a bad guy, despite murdering 80% of the human population.
Yeah, yeah, and I think unsettling is a very good word to describe it
Yeah. So what
because it's
about,
just so morbid.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like in any other manga, if somebody killed 80% of the world's population, did this to his friends, I don't know, killed Hanji,
There's
I,
no redemption.
there is no redemption. And this one, even you got Reiner thanking him, and I'd be like, dude, if I was Reiner, I would not be thanking him.
No, yeah, I mean that's pretty much how I feel as well. But again, I already said it earlier. I did like the chapter, but yeah, a lot of the moments were just so gruesome and morbid once again that it just made me think about what Attack on Titan has been
Yeah.
as a whole up to this point. And it's like when you really go back and look, like it's had a lot of that.
Hmm.
It just hasn't really, I don't know, maybe it just hasn't sunken in until it just started to get crazier and crazier and crazier. We kind of got desensitized to a lot of it.
I think you're right on that. Absolutely. And I think too about the morality of the story, presenting Eren in honestly such a positive light in this final chapter. I think that was deliberately done too because of Isayama's intentions to not pass judgment, and the fact that he based this entire manga on watching a documentary about a serial killer and feeling sympathetic for a serial killer. So should I have been surprised? No. Um, like you said, I don't know. It's the writing was on the wall in a lot of ways, and
Hmm.
I don't know if it's desensitized or we just get caught up in our head canons or
Hmm.
whatever. But yeah, it's a good it's I the fandom reaction has been visceral to this one. Like I've seen a lot of anger.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to the chapter poll to find out where the majority stand. I don't know if it's just the places that I'm in that have been so negative, or I don't know what the average person thinks, or just the majority, the plurality. I'm looking forward to finding out. But I do think as time goes on, people will view it more favorably, maybe. Maybe this kind of knee jerk reaction is just to have been expected because our expectations on some things weren't met. I don't know. I don't know. Do you think it'll get better? Do you think people will start to like it more as time
I
goes on?
think I think as people start to divulge into the entire work, they will.
Mm,
Right now, it's too soon after the big climax.
yeah.
Um, because like what I wanted to just ask you is like knowing everything now. What would you say is the message of Attack on Titan? Like, what would you say to someone is the big meaning behind the entire story? I think there's a
Wow.
lot of them. There's many of them, but
Yeah.
what's the like overarching one?
Hmm. I know it was my strongest desire that, in the simplest terms, that the primary message of Attack on Titan would be that, war is bad, that it would have a moral message. War is bad, genocide is bad. That would be plain in reading the pages. So that was kind of my own personal selfish wish because of well, too, like the little fascist element that has crept into our fandom. And,
Hmm.
um, so I was hoping it was going to be more clear on that. And I don't think it was. But I do think it was still very much a story about human nature, I guess, which is just a cop out answer for me. Just, people in power continue to hurt those beneath them. And I think there's a large part of, like you were saying before, everybody is a slave to something. But I also think the message is one of hope. Armin at the end, Historia at the end, okay, people suck, governments suck, people are mean to each other, but we keep hoping for something better. And that's, I think, what I took away from the ending.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely got a lot of that as well. I would just add that to keep fighting as well for what your beliefs are, and for some people, fighting might mean like physically fighting.
Mm,
And for others it might just mean helping someone else or keeping hope alive, like just it can mean so many different things, and that's why I think it's so authentic. That's why I also think it's so visceral and graphic, because it has to really show the pain and the outcomes that these situations lead to.
wow, I really like that. I might borrow that. I might save that.
Oh, thank you. You
No,
made
you're
me feel
right.
like I said something
You
profound.
did. No, you did though, because you got me thinking like Eren in the mirror, fight, fight. Mikasa in the mirror, fight, fight. The people
Mhm.
of everyone's fighting. And people like Armin are fighting for peace. People like Eren are. I mean, not everybody fights the same way. Not everyone fights in healthy ways. And I think
Exactly.
that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of unhealthy fighting and some that I would consider healthy fighting.
Mhm.
Mikasa as well. Huh. I like that. Except Levi, he gave up fighting. He's just going to sit in his chair and get pushed
Yeah.
around and read his newspaper. Keep
Well,
fighting.
yeah, like you said, he deserves that. So we'll give him that one.
Levi's done fighting, but everybody else, the fight stays on.
Yeah.
Huh.
Um. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
that
could see
that's
that. Keep fighting for what you believe in. even somebody like Eren, what he believed in was horrible, but he kept fighting for it.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that's what I mean. Like that can lead to some very terrible situations, when someone sets their sights on a goal like that.
yeah.
But if someone can have that same type of drive and fire for a positive, um, you know, intention,
Hmm.
they can achieve just as much, but not have it be a global genocide.
Yeah. I think that
um,
fits into something I was thinking about with Armin. Like a lot of people have been hugely critical, and rightly so, of at least the appearance of Armin thanking Eren for the genocide. Like that's okay. That's cringy, no matter what. You cannot
for
spin that
sure.
to make it good. But I think it was Saflora pointed out to me that Armin has always been, he's the character who first realized that to accomplish anything, you needed to throw away your humanity. He's always been the least
Yes.
judgmental person in he was the one who could lie to Bertolt's face while still considering him a friend. He could lie to Annie and try to trap her while still being her friend. He was the one who, blew up a port and immediately thought of Bert and was like, yeah, dude, we're the same. All he had no problem joining forces with the Warriors. Like he never judged people for the depths that they would go
Hmm.
to accomplish what they needed to do because he himself would go to any length to accomplish what he would need to do. So like that
Yes.
idiom of the
Yes.
pot calling the kettle black, Armin saw the hypocrisy in that, so he never did. So if anybody could thank Eren for this, it would be Armin because Armin understood the depths that people would go. And he didn't judge people for that. They were doing their thing, he was going to do his. And those things were complete polar opposites, but he understood the drive and the levels that people would go. And I don't know that that makes me feel any better, but at least it helps me to understand why Armin in that moment could thank him, be okay with
Right.
him.
Right. No, yeah, I'm so happy you said that because that's a feeling I've been expressing for so long. Like when I've been talking about the anime episodes, I
Mm-hmm.
don't remember what exact one, but I spent a whole segment saying exactly what you just did.
Mm,
That like Armin knew this from the beginning.
yeah.
So if there's anyone who should at least understand, I'm not saying agree with, but understand Eren, it should be Armin. So
Yeah.
it's just like it's
I think
crazy how
that's the
all that
what you
comes back
just
into
Yep,
play.
you said it. Understand but not agree with. That's what he was doing at that moment. It wasn't, I don't think it was as obvious as it could have been, but he understood without agreeing. And that point is, I don't know, I wish it was a little more clear. I understand it, but I also understand people who were really upset about it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, but I mean, I don't know how to feel exactly now that everything's over. Like I'm sad. I'm excited that I got the ending, but it's just I don't know how to feel. I'm conflicted.
Well, you're lucky that you have other hobbies because I have been to your YouTube channel and you have other hobbies.
Yeah.
I don't have any other hobbies. How long have you been a part of the series?
Well, I jumped on in like 2019.
Okay, so still a good long time.
But I didn't really like start like dissecting it until maybe last year. Like when I
Okay.
started covering it on my podcast, that was when I really entered the fandom.
Okay. So what part of the manga were we at when that happened?
I think it was like 126, I want to say
Okay. Wow.
125, somewhere around there. Like yeah, like they were fighting the Jaegerists and all that with Annie and Reiner. That's what was all
Huh.
going on. So um, but yeah,
Have you been
yeah,
able to
it's
figure
been
out
crazy.
have you been able to figure out what sucked you into this series? Like what was it about the series that just caught your attention and turned you into someone who was willing to like spend hours of your free time talking about it with others?
Tell me about it. It was how real it was to me.
Yeah.
Like it just. I was telling Petter on the other episode, like this is one of the few works that like when I'm reading it or watching it, I really get into it. I get emotional. I
Hmm.
I can relate with the characters. I feel myself crying or yelling or screaming in joy, like all the spectrum of emotions. and like you said, I read a lot of things. I watch a lot of things, but this is one of the few that actually gets me on that level.
It's a very relatable. I think the struggles that these characters go through are very relatable and I think that's why it's got that global appeal. Everyone can see a little bit of themselves and their own struggles in it, and that there's something special about that.
Yeah, yeah. Anyone can enjoy Attack on Titan, and now that
Mhm.
it's concluded, it's the perfect time to jump in. You know, if you're an anime only and you don't want to get spoiled for now, that season 4, part 2, you might as well just go back and read it all. Um, but that being said, Momtaku, it was so much fun having you on this episode.
I really enjoyed our conversation. I hope
Thank
the
you
end of the
so much.
series isn't the end of me getting to speak with you, because this has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely, you are always welcome on the Nasty Podcast. We can talk about even when we're not talking about Attack on Titan, we could talk about all types of things because I feel like Attack on Titan relates to so many real life things. So, like I said, you're always welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today. It was so much fun.
Thank you. I've been smiling the whole time.
Likewise, likewise, and you know your stuff. It's very obvious. Why don't you tell the viewers where they can check you out?
Oh, okay. So I'm primarily on Tumblr, Momtaku at Tumblr, or momtaku.tumblr.com. Also, the You Hear Big Girls podcast. We're online at youhearbiggirls.com. And I think those are my two main haunts. I'm also on Discord, obviously. And on, yeah, I think that's it. I have a Twitter account, but it's just, that's where I am a shipper, and that's where I ship. So I try to like be a normal fan. Not that shippers are not normal fans, but I try to be like, general meta analysis. Let's talk about the themes or whatever. And then my heart, where I want to just be silly and goofy, is Twitter. So that one's kind of off limits. But yeah, definitely Tumblr and the You Hear Big Girls website.
Yeah, and You Hear Big Girls is an awesome podcast. I love listening to you and Luna and then all the other guests who you occasionally have as well.
Yeah, I think we've had 50 guests in 2 years. So
Wow,
a lot of,
congrats.
yeah, a lot of, we, I don't know. It's like there's always more people I want to hear from. I would have, I'm now kicking myself that we didn't have you, but the retrospective podcasts are happening, and the anime, hopefully, we'll start up something of that when that series comes back. So would absolutely love to have you back on with us.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. And yeah, once season 4 part 2 comes out, I'll definitely like to have you and we can talk about some of the anime as well. Get your thoughts on that.
I appreciate it.
As always, guys, thank you so much for listening as well. This was a little bit of a longer episode than we usually do, but it's the last chapter of Attack on Titan, so we had to go all out. We had to go in, and we definitely did. Um, as always, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay woke. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.